everyone. My name is Grace, and I'm the scheduling coordinator for NJ4S Union Hub. Today we'll be having our Monday presentation. Today's presentation will be Healing from Toxic by Rachel Scarinci. A little bit about her. Rachel is a prevention consultant for the NJ4S Union Hub. She is a proud first-generation graduate student who will be graduating with her MPH in Global Public Health next summer. During her undergrad years, Rachel obtained her Bachelor of Science in Public Health along with a double minor in Science Communication and Emergency Public Health Preparedness. She is passionate about educating others on preventative strategies to raise awareness and better their well-being. Ultimately, she enjoys empowering others by giving them the tools and guidance necessary to tackle challenges confidently and autonomously. One of her favorite stories is about the lotus flower. It grows from muddy waters, but always emerges untouched and pristine, constantly being reborn through mud. It's up to us to wash away the dirt and blossom into the beautiful flower. Rachel finds joy in watching Formula One races every weekend, working on cars, golfing with her grandmother, her plants, while her cat Mystic helps. So without further ado, I'll hand it over to Rachel for her presentation.
Thank you for that warm introduction, and hello everyone. Today we're talking about healing from toxic relationships. I'm really excited to talk about this with you guys and dive into it. So we're going to be talking about what toxic relationships are, signs of a toxic relationship, the impact it has on your mental health and emotional well-being, breaking free from those toxic relationships, rebuilding your self-worth, embracing healthier connections, and then some resources and support. So what is a toxic relationship? When you guys hear toxic relationship, what comes to mind? The straight up definition of it is a relationship that is harmful to your emotional, mental, or physical well-being. So the common traits that come with that, we're going to talk about more of them, but the common ones are manipulation, control, having a lack of respect for their partner, and emotional abuse. We've also been seeing an increase of toxic relationships due to influence from social media trends. I know on TikTok there was one trend, it was like, if he could, he would. And that was damaging a lot of relationships because people were like, oh, well, you would if you could. And we're not mind readers, right? We don't know what's going on inside of someone else's head. So to say like, you could if you should, or you know, coulda, shoulda, coulda, woulda, that kind of stuff, like it all comes down to these trends. And the next one that I was thinking of is there was one called the ick, and it was just like all these girls or guys posting videos of like the other person in their relationship, and it was like it was fine until all of a sudden I got the ick. There was something else, another trend where like couples were giving the other one an orange just to see if the partner would peel the orange for them or not, and it just shows that they would go out of their way to do small things for you. So everyone's relationship is different, right? And when we post about them online, sometimes we're only posting those good moments. Sometimes even these videos are fabricated, like they're made up, the couples talk about it before they film it, and that's what they're presenting to the world. So again, we've just been seeing a lot of toxicity, especially on social media with the trends and all kinds of stuff. Some examples of toxic relationships, you can see those in romantic relationships, friendships, family, or the workplace. They're pretty common. Signs of a toxic relationship. So constant criticism is one that's huge, right? This is them always criticizing you. You're not doing good enough. The house wasn't clean. You could have done this better. It's not nice. It doesn't feel good when people criticize you when you're not asking for it, right? I think all of us are open to constructive criticism where it's like, hey, I really appreciated that you did this, but maybe next time let's try this, right? That's a healthy way of talking about it. But constant criticism is gonna just always be putting you down, which is kind of similar to belittling. So when we criticize someone, we're, telling them maybe they're not up to our standard. But when we belittle someone, it's the actual act of putting them down, and making them feel smaller than themselves. Again, a very toxic negative trait to see in a relationship. Feeling drained, anxious, or walking on eggshells. This is a big one, right? If you feel like you have to beat around the bush with your partner, that's not healthy. We should feel like we can talk to our partners, be open with them. So if you're coming home from work and you're realizing you're sitting in your car for an extra half hour because you don't want to go inside, that's maybe a sign that you're in a toxic relationship. Feeling anxious, especially for women, like if you're dating a man and you guys are going out to a restaurant and you want to dress up and look beautiful, and you come out and you're like, I look like a 10, and you walk in the room and he's like, you're going out like that? That would send me through the roof, right? Like, I just put all this time into looking good for myself for you to be insecure about how I look and how other guys are going to look at me. So again, if you're noticing I don't want to have this conversation with them because I'm anxious of their reaction, or same thing, I'm now walking on eggshells because if I look at her the wrong way, she's going to react a certain way. Those are also signs. Some more, we have lack of trust. So that's pretty straightforward, right? You're not trusting your partner anymore. Trust, as we know, is huge, right? It's kind of the backbone of relationships. When I talk about a healthy relationship, the immediate things that come to my mind are having good communication and being able to trust your partner. Those are like two absolutes. So once you start losing that trust, it can be kind of hard to gain it back, right? Because sometimes when we think of lack of trust, we're thinking of a situation where maybe they cheated, right? And now you've like seriously lost that lack of trust. But something else could happen that's a lot smaller, right? Like, for example, if you asked him to pick something up from the store and you trusted him to get that because you needed it, and he comes home and he doesn't have it, you could be like, I trusted you to get that. I really needed that. And now I'm starting to feel like I don't trust you. And again, we were seeing on social media where people were finding like even the smallest things, and I was like, how does that make you lose someone's trust, or trust in someone? So again, huge one. One-sided effort. So we always say it takes two to tango. It's a two-way street, not a one-way. So if you're seeing that you're putting a lot more effort in, or the other person's putting a lot more effort in, and you're not able to reciprocate that, it's probably a toxic relationship. We all work hard and we all deserve to support each other and build each other up instead of breaking each other down. And when things start to feel one-sided and you feel like you're the one pulling all the weight, it makes it really hard because now you have this power imbalance, right? And it's like, I don't want to make them feel bad by telling them they need to do more, but that's where like the open communication and like good communication comes into play, because that's something that you could kind of help fix of like, hey, I noticed that when I come home from work, I still have to take out the trash, I still have to clean the bathroom, I still have to feed the cat. It's like, I still have to take care of all of these things, but you've been home all day. Would you mind helping out a little bit more? And if they're able to help you, then that's amazing. But if they're not, then you're still seeing that one-sided effort. Emotional or physical abuse. This is another one you guys touched on. Pretty straightforward, right? No one should be emotionally or physically abusing anyone, regardless if it's a romantic relationship or not. I know it's very easy for us to pick on our friends, but when your friends ask you to stop, you should. If it gets to the point where your friends are all bruised because of you, you need to look inward. Especially with the emotional physical abuse, we'll touch a little bit more on it. There's something else that ties into it. So now we have gaslighting. Gaslighting is pretty much when you're trying to make the other person, I guess you're trying to paint them in a certain picture, right? gaslighting is kind of similar to blame shifting, where, it's like, well, if you didn't do this, then I would have been able to do that. Or how many times do we hear after a breakup and the guy's like, oh, she was crazy, she was crazy. She probably wasn't crazy. You were probably making her act crazy. So yeah, gaslighting is a huge one. Again, it can happen in person, online. It can even happen behind your back in group chats, and all of that. Um, I've I've been the one to find text messages on my partner's phone before, trash talking their partner, which is crazy because it's like, why are you with me then? So yeah, gaslighting is something that a lot of people fear too because they feel like they have to act a certain way so they don't get gaslit at the end of the relationship. Um, so yeah, that's a big one. Love bombing is another one, which is okay to an extent, right? Um, it's okay to show love to your partner and like shower them with gifts and everything. But when it's to the point of it being a love bomb, where it's like every time you see them, you're getting flowers, chocolate, and a piece of jewelry. Or it's like every time we go out to dinner, he's picking me up in a car, he's paying for this, he's paying for that. Got a new purse. Love bombing is so dangerous because oftentimes people think the person is in love with them. Meanwhile, it's just that honeymoon phase still, right? Where people aren't necessarily, they're kind of still figuring it out. They're just excited because it's something new. And I'm the person, I like to say it takes 3 months to see somebody's true colors. The first month, they're able to put on this facade. The second month, it'll start to change a little bit. And then by the third month, you really start to see their true colors. And again, love bombing typically happens within those first 3 months. So if you're seeing, the first 3 months of my relationship was all happy go lucky and I was getting all these gifts and now I'm not getting anything and he's gaslighting me all the time. Obviously that's toxic. Being possessive, this is another one, right? This is like your partner's not letting you go out of the house. Your partner's not letting you see your friends. You can go to work, but you have to come home early. Who are you texting? Always wanting to be on your phone. That kind of possessiveness, right? Oh no, you can't go to the bathroom. Let me walk you there. Um, it's that kind of stuff. And that can be really dangerous because now your partner is isolating you away from your support systems and your friends. And imagine how scary that must be that, this slowly happens over time, right? It's not just something that you notice. Before you realize it, you're like, wow, I haven't seen my friends in months. And now you're trying to go see your friends and your partner's not letting you. And now you can't even talk to them because he has access to your phone and all this stuff. So being possessive, again, to an extent, right? We all want to protect our partner. We all want to show that, this is the person I'm with. But when we're overly possessive, that's extremely dangerous. So next we have, oops, stonewalling. So this is the silent treatment, right? Stonewalling is when you and your partner get into a fight and like now your partner doesn't want to talk to you because they're mad. Or a good example is some girls are crazy and they will have a dream that their partner cheated on them and then they'll wake up in the morning mad at their partner even though it was a dream. So then the girl will stonewall the guy because she's like, "Oh, you cheated on me in my dream." And like that's not necessarily fair. I've had dreams like that. I laugh about it with my partner because we think it's funny, like we know we're going to be together. But we also have, that confidence in our relationship where we really trust each other. Um, so yeah, stonewalling, again, it's just this is I'm not going to talk to you. And that's not healthy to bottle stuff up, right? It might be scary to have those conversations because in a way they could feel confrontational, but again, you need to be able to talk about what you're going through and how you're feeling. Oftentimes too, even in relationships, like we'll see we'll see something happen and we take it a certain way. and then we start reacting to the impression we had. And that can stop if you just open up that conversation with your partner, because maybe they said something, but they didn't mean for it to come off the way they did, and now you're just not talking to them. So yeah, that's what stonewalling is. Our next is hot and cold behavior. So this is 1 minute they're all over you, it's lovey-dovey, Hollywood movie, and then they're like, don't touch me, get away from me, could you stay somewhere else? That kind of stuff, right? No one ever wants to feel that push and pull or that hot and cold. Oftentimes you always want, you always want to be amicable with each other and kind of be in that lukewarm water. um, but once you start seeing or feeling that hot and cold behavior of like, they're pulling me in, they're pushing me away, they're pulling me in, they're pushing me away, that's not necessarily healthy for you, because think about the emotional toll you're going through in this, right? It's like, this week I have them because they're being hot, and next week I won't have them because they're being cold. So that could be really draining and tiring for the other party. Um, Always trying to one up you. This is probably one of my favorite ones. So I'll share with you guys, a long, long time ago, one of my exes, he was extremely competitive, and we were both competitive snowboarders at the time. So for me, I thought it was fun at first because we were snowboarding, right? And we were competing against each other. So it was like this fun, cute little rivalry that we had. But then it got to the point where like he was like always trying to outdo me, and it wasn't about snowboarding anymore. And that didn't really make me feel good, right? I mean, there's already differences between a man and a woman, and like I can only lift so much, and now you're telling me you can lift 300 pounds. I can't lift 300 pounds. I got to work up to that. Um, and there was just a lot. So again, it's fun to have that like cutesy competitive nature in your relationship, but when the other person's always trying to outdo you, that must be tiring, right? Again, it's not a good feeling. So moving on, we have emotional or physical blackmail. So this goes back a few slides ago when I was talking about the emotional or physical abuse on number 6. So emotional or physical blackmail is when they are using things against you, right? So emotional blackmail is going to be like, again, they're using your emotions against you. So it's like, I I can't believe you got upset that over that, and then they're gonna guilt trip you because it's like, oh, I can't believe you reacted, I can't believe you cried over that. And then they use that against you. It's like, oh, well, go ahead, cry about it then, cry about it, because they don't care. They have no sense for anybody else. Emotional blackmail is really, really damaging, especially if you're going through therapy and you're trying to work on things and your partner doesn't understand or accept therapy. I've seen relationships where, they were going through therapy trying to work on their issues, and the partner is using therapy against them as a form of blackmail of like, well, you're crazy, you don't have it together, like all these negative things. And then physical blackmail is going to be like having pictures or videos of you that they're now using against you. And sometimes you might not even know that they have these pictures or videos, which is really scary until after you're out of the relationship and now you see this stuff all over the internet. Triangulation. So this is when your partner is trying to involve a third party into your relationship. That's pretty toxic, especially if you haven't talked about being in a polygamous relationship, right? So being in monogamous relationships where you're just with one person and they're trying to bring in a third, if you guys haven't had that conversation, it could feel extremely toxic. If you've had that conversation and you're okay with being polygamous, then triangulation might not be a toxic thing in your relationship. But again, if that's a conversation that you need to have with your partner, if you want to follow monogamy or not. Jealousy, this is excessive jealousy, and it kind of goes based off of, what was I talking about on the other slide? Being possessive for number 9. So when we talk about jealousy, right, this is like, oh, I don't want you to go to the club because other guys might hit on you. Or I don't want you going to your girlfriend's house because I don't know what you guys are going to do. Or jealousy could even turn into FOMO, which is fear of missing out. So when we think of, a jealous partner where it's like, oh, I can't see what you're doing on your phone, it kind of goes back to a little bit of insecurity when we talk about jealousy, because if you weren't like, it's okay to be naturally jealous, right? I think all of us have that inside of us, but when you're overly jealous, I think that's where you might need to reassess your trust in the relationship. All right, this is our last one. I know there's tons of signs of toxic relationships, and I'm sure there's even more that I missed, but these were like all the important ones that I wanted to cover. So next we have minimizing your feelings or having a lack of empathy. So say you're going through something really hard and your partner isn't being open to that or empathetic. They're not having any sense of your feelings, right? Um, that's a really difficult thing to go through, because now you feel like your partner isn't emotionally in tune with you. And that's really important, especially when you guys are living together and you're sharing a space and you kind of need to read each other, right? Like, not every day is going to be waking up and having a smile on my face. Sometimes we have those days where you just don't know what's wrong and you're like, I don't know, I'm just in a mood, like I'm just in a funk. And if your partner can't empathize with that, or if your partner can't support your feelings, if they're making you feel less than, that's definitely toxic. Overstepping boundaries kind of goes back to the whole like jealousy, being possessive. Your partner should not be telling you what you can wear, how you smell, what you should be doing, where you should work, who you can hang out with. That's completely inappropriate. It's overstepping boundaries, right? We are all our own individual people, and we all need to live life for ourselves. And once you involve another person in your life, you're still living life together and growing together, but we still have our own personal agendas that we need to tend to. And if your partner is overstepping those boundaries into your personal agendas and changing those, you should look at that. And the last one I have is being passive aggressive. So these are just gonna be, those little snide comments, right? Every time I think of someone being passive aggressive, I'm like, how old are we? Like, are we still in high school? This is like throwing a temper tantrum, right? Or you guys got into an argument and now they're slamming doors and you're like, excuse me, like, how old are we? Passive aggressiveness is definitely something I'm pretty sure all of us are aware about. It might be a little hard to recognize in your relationship sometimes, but for the most part, I feel like it's pretty easy. Um, all right, so moving on. So the impact of all of this on your mental health and emotional well-being, it's gonna increase your stress, anxiety, and depression, right? Because you're gonna be stressed about your relationship all the time. You're gonna be anxious, like, am I doing too much? Am I not doing enough? Am I dressed okay? Is he texting other girls? It sends you for a loop, right? And that can also, make you depressed at the end of the day if you feel like you're not doing enough, or if you feel like you're going to lose the relationship, or if you do lose the relationship, right? It's just going to send you down the drain because you've been putting 100% in the whole time. And I always tell people, don't put all of your eggs in one basket, right? Don't be that person that puts 100% into everything. If you put 50% into yourself and 50% into your relationship, you will be so much happier because you're still taking time for you at the end of the day. And if something happens in your relationship, it feels like the blow is a lot less when something happens because you guys have already kind of had that conversation. Um, so we also have loss of self-esteem and confidence, right? If someone's putting you down or overstepping boundaries, if someone's living your life for you, you're gonna lose all your confidence. You're not gonna know your self-identity. It's gonna be, who am I again after this relationship? Because you've only known yourself with them for however long. You might have difficulty trusting others and forming new healthy relationships. Um, I I mean, everybody does their own thing, but I think it's a really good idea to kind of take a second and look at your relationship after it ends. And it doesn't have to be right away, it could be months later. But during that healing process, try and recognize triggers that you're going through. And if you're recognizing oh, I'm triggered because of XYZ, start asking yourself, is it my problem or was it something that my partner did that's making me feel this way? Because there was a lot of stuff that I had to work through to not bring into my current relationship. I was treated very poorly in my relationships growing up. So for me, once I got into my current relationship, I was noticing all these things about me because these men had conditioned me in such a negative mindset. So it took a lot of reform, honestly. It took a lot of healing. It took a lot of spiritual breakthroughs for me to come to terms with what I had been through, how people had treated me, the fact that I was even okay with that, or I didn't even recognize that they were treating me like that. Um, it's amazing. But once you're able to kind of work through that, it makes building new relationships a lot healthier. I feel like oftentimes we get stuck into seeing patterns and we're like, oh, well, if the pattern happened in the past, it's going to keep repeating itself in the future. And it's like, how do I break that? And sometimes, again, you just have to have those moments of self-reflection, to kind of look at, oh, I realize I act this way because he did this or he did that. And then physical symptoms, you could get headaches, fatigue, sleep disturbances. I was someone who had a hard time eating when I was in a toxic or a negative relationship because I just had no appetite. Um, and yeah, sleeping is a whole nother thing, right? You're gonna be staying up at night, making sure he goes to bed first so he's not doing anything on Instagram or TikTok. But yeah, it's all very draining and all very impactful on your mental health. So, how to break free from this? So, recognizing and acknowledging the toxicity, right? That's pretty straightforward. How do you do that though? You have to look at all of these little things, right? All 18 signs that I talked about. Sit down and recognize hey, I feel this way because you're doing this. And it makes it a little bit easier to acknowledge traits that might be like a red flag for you. If the person is open to working on those red flags, that's amazing. If they're not, then that might not be the relationship for you. Set boundaries and enforce them. So, especially when we talk about being possessive and stuff, tell him no, Friday night is girls' night. I'm going out. And if he has a problem with that, be like, tough. It's girls' night. You have guys' night. I should be able to see my friends. If, whatever it is, but just set those boundaries and enforce them. Tell him hey, I don't like when you use my therapy against me. Whatever the case may be. And then seek support from trusted individuals or professionals. Again, therapists are amazing for helping deal with toxic relationships, helping you find your self-confidence and everything. Trusted individuals, again, those would be like your friends or family. And you'd be surprised, like, I thought I knew everything about my parents and, like, tell like, when I was growing up dating and stuff, like, my mom would be like, "Oh my god, that reminded me of, like, this one boy I dated in high school," and I was like, "What?" And, like, I remember another time, like, my dad was telling me a story about a girl he used to date, and it was just, like, really interesting, right? Because like, I knew my parents dating until they met, and then they had me. So, again, I thought I knew everything, but sharing stories with them and talking to them, my parents have actually, like, helped me a lot with relationships and recognizing certain things. And it's weird, right? People will always tell you, like, "You'll know when you know," and it sounds so silly, but you will really know when you know. It's kind of like for us women when we go dress shopping and we try on the dress and we know it's the dress because it just you get that feeling. Um, but yeah, and then lastly, for breaking free, we have making an exit plan if necessary, and this is more so for unsafe situations. Um, I was actually at a point in my life where I needed to have an exit plan in one of the relationships I was in. And my exit plan worked every single time. I always kept my car key in my pocket so he couldn't take it from me. And anytime I needed to get out of there, I was zipping gone. So exit plans are typically a way for you to leave the situation or become safe in an unsafe situation. So, even just being on the phone with your parent might even save you in some situations because they already know where you are and stuff, they know who you're with. So, a lot of times I've just been on the phone with my mom and I'm like, hey, just make sure I'm safe right now. It's stuff like that. So yeah, exit plans, super important. I feel like exit plans should just be important in general. Like every space that I go to, or like every time I leave my house, I'm always thinking of like a way to get out of there just in case I need to, because the world we live in is honestly crazy. Rebuilding your self-worth after all of this. Obviously, we have our self-care practices to rebuild your self-worth. So for someone like me, my self-care practice was going to therapy after relationships. It helped me grow as an individual so much. Um, so that's a good route to go. Exercising, I picked up yoga, journaling, whatever your self-care is. I used to just go for drives in my car and with all the windows down, and I would like blast my music. That was my self-care. Just kind of clearing my mind. I love being outside. I would like drive down to the beach and stuff. So whatever self-care practice resonates with you the most, try doing that to help rebuild your self-worth. You can do daily affirmations and self-compassion. So what I like to do is I have expo markers and I write notes on my bathroom mirror to myself and my partner. So if like I get up before him, I'll write something like, have a great day at work. I love you. You're amazing. And like he always sends me a picture of it whenever he wakes up and he's like, oh, you're so sweet. And like I know that this is, I'm talking about a relationship, but that was something I did for myself before I was in a relationship. Writing nice things to myself in the mirror. And I would go like all week with my notes up. So come Sunday night, I would like erase all of them so I could see all the nice things I said to myself throughout the week. You're beautiful, you have pretty eyes, whatever the case may be. There's also tons of Instagram accounts that post daily affirmations and help foster self-compassion. So that's always another area. You can surround yourself with supportive, positive people. Again, those would just be like your friends, family, people you love being around that always put a smile on your face. And engaging in activities that bring joy and fulfillment. So yeah, just embracing your healthier connections in life. Learning to trust again can be really hard, but all of those self-care practices can help you learn to trust again. Um, I think an easy place to start would maybe be in your friendships, and trusting your friends is a good way to, learn how to trust people again. Taking time to heal before entering new relationships. This one is so important. So important. If there's like one I could just like flash on the screen a million times. We need that time for us, right? We need that time to heal, to go through whatever journey we need to go through after all the crap we went through. It's super important. Don't rush yourself into anything. Even if you start like hanging out with this guy, just be like, maybe I'll get to know him by the end of the summer. You know what I mean? Just take it easy. Nobody's gonna go anywhere. And if they do, then maybe they weren't meant for you. And then lastly, you can recognize healthy relationship traits. Again, these are going to be the opposite of everything we talked about. So if they have great communication skills, if they're emotionally supportive of you, if they're giving you compliments and building you up all the time, those are all the healthy relationship traits that you want to recognize coming out of a toxic relationship. And again, you could even start in your friendships and just recognizing like, oh, like one of my best friends, she always goes out of her way for me. She's, on my birthday, she always sends me like a bouquet of flowers, that's something healthy. But yeah, start small. You don't always have to go big right off the bat. And then just some resources and support for you guys. So again, if you are going through relationship problems or you're recently out of a relationship, your friends and family are great support systems. There are helplines. I've actually called some of the helplines, just because we promote so much stuff here and I don't want to promote something I've never tried. So I've tried most of the helplines. They are really great. The people listen, they offer good advice. There are support groups and therapy options as well. You could listen to books, podcasts, there's YouTube, any self-help tool that you know of. That is all I have. Thank you guys so much. I know that was a little bit longer than normal, but I was just very excited about this topic. There's a lot to cover. So yeah, unless you guys have any questions, that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us for that amazing presentation. Thank you very much, Rachel. It was very inspiring and very important. If you'd like to give feedback on her presentation, you can use the link that I put into the chat, and we would greatly appreciate it. These submissions are anonymous, and it improves the quality of our presentations. If you enjoyed the presentation and you want to keep up with what NJ4S Union Hub is doing in the NJ4S Union on Instagram, or if you have any questions about our program, you can email us at NJ4S Union@preventionlinks.org.